Hello, and welcome to Whispers of Time. Today we tell a story that is bigger than football. A story about destiny, pain, joy, and greatness. A story about a boy who rose from poverty to become the king of football. This is the story of Pelé. Some legends are born into comfort, some are shaped by opportunity. But the greatest legends are forged in struggle. Pelé was born on October 23, 1940, in a small town called Três Corações in Brazil. His real name was Edson Arantes do Nascimento. His family was very poor. His father, João Ramos do Nascimento, known as Dondinho, was a football player with talent, but no luck. An injury destroyed his career before it could truly begin. His mother, Celeste Arantes, worked tirelessly to support the family. There was no luxury, no comfort, sometimes not even enough food, but there was love, and there were dreams. One day, young Edson saw his father crying. Brazil had just lost the 1950 World Cup final in one of the most painful moments in football history. Dondinho, heartbroken, wept openly. The boy approached his father and said something that would change history. "Don't cry, Dad. I will win the World Cup for you." He was only 9 years old. At that moment, a promise was made. Not to the world, but to family. Edson didn't have a real football. He played barefoot, on dirt roads, with balls made of socks, paper, and string. Every kick was imagination. Every goal was a dream. He learned creativity because he had nothing else. While other children slept, Edson practiced. While others rested, he played. Football became his escape from hunger, his answer to poverty, his language to the world. As a child, Edson admired a local goalkeeper named Pele, but young Edson mispronounced the name as Pelé. Other kids laughed. They mocked him. They teased him endlessly, but the nickname stayed. What began as a joke would one day become the most famous name in football history. Pelé's father tried to guide him. He taught him technique. He taught him discipline. He taught him humility. But life remained difficult. Pelé often polished shoes to earn money. He helped his family however he could. Still, football never left him. By the age of 15, Pelé was already doing things no one else could. Pelé was discovered by Waldemar de Brito, a former Brazilian international player. After watching Pelé play, de Brito said, "This boy will be the greatest footballer in the world." He took Pelé to Santos FC, one of Brazil's biggest clubs. Pelé was nervous, small, thin. But when he touched the ball, everything changed. In 1956, Pelé signed his first professional contract with Santos FC. He was 15 years old. 1 year later, he scored 36 goals in one season. Brazil had found something special, but the world had no idea what was coming. In 1957, Pelé was selected for the Brazilian national team. At just 16 years old, he scored his first goal for Brazil against Argentina, the youngest scorer in national team history, a child among men, yet fearless. Pelé was only 17 years old when he traveled to Sweden for the 1958 FIFA World Cup. He was injured, unproven, barely known. Many doubted him. But destiny does not wait for permission. In the quarterfinals, Pelé scored. In the semifinals, he scored a hat trick. In the final against Sweden, he scored 2 goals. Brazil won the World Cup. Pelé cried on the field. Not from joy alone, but from relief. He had kept his promise. When the 1958 World Cup ended, Pelé was no longer just a boy from Brazil. He was a global miracle. At only 17 years old, he had conquered the biggest stage in football. Newspapers across the world printed his name. Fans wanted his autograph. Governments wanted to protect him. Clubs wanted to buy him. But Pelé was still a child. and childhood disappears quickly when the world is watching. When Pelé returned to Brazil, the country welcomed him like a hero. Crowds filled the streets, children followed him everywhere. Strangers called him O Rei, the king. Brazil's government even declared Pelé a national treasure, making it illegal for foreign clubs to buy him. They knew one thing: Pelé did not belong to a club. He belonged to Brazil. Pelé stayed with Santos FC, and what followed was one of the most dominant periods in club football history. With Pelé leading the attack, Santos became unstoppable. They won Brazilian league titles, state championships, international trophies. Pelé scored goals with power, precision, creativity, joy. He could score with both feet. He could score with his head. He could score from impossible angles. Defenders didn't know how to stop him. Some tried to kick him. Others tried to intimidate him. Most failed. As Pelé became more dominant, matches grew brutal. Opponents feared him. They kicked his legs. They pushed him. They tried to injure him. Referees often looked away. Pelé later said, "They didn't try to stop me. They tried to destroy me." He played through pain that would have ended other careers, but Pelé never responded with anger. He responded with goals. Santos traveled across the world to play friendly matches. Europe, Africa, Asia, North America. Wherever Pelé went, stadiums sold out. In some countries, wars paused just to watch him play. People who had never seen football before fell in love with the game because of Pelé. For the first time in history, football had a global face, and that face belonged to a young man who barely had time to grow up. Fame brought isolation. Pelé could not walk freely. He could not live normally. He could not fail. Every mistake became news. Every silence became a rumor. He missed being anonymous. He missed being a boy. But responsibility does not ask permission. At the 1962 World Cup in Chile, Pelé arrived as the world's biggest star. But tragedy struck early. He was injured during the group stage. Doctors said he should not play. Pelé watched from the sidelines as Brazil fought through the tournament. He felt useless, helpless, broken. But Brazil won the World Cup again. Pelé became a two-time world champion at 21, even though he barely played. The trophy felt heavy. Not joy, not relief, pressure. From that moment on, Pelé carried impossible expectations. If Brazil won, it was normal. If Brazil lost, it was his fault. He was no longer allowed to be human. Mistakes were unforgivable. Fatigue was unacceptable. Pain was invisible. Despite everything, Pelé kept scoring. Hundreds of goals, then thousands. He broke records so fast that people stopped counting. By his mid-20s, Pelé had already scored over 1,000 career goals. Yet critics said he plays against weak teams. He benefits from easy matches. Pelé ignored them. Greatness does not argue. Being king came at a cost. Pelé suffered depression. He felt trapped by fame. He questioned his own happiness. He once admitted, "Football gave me everything and took everything." Still, he played on because millions depended on him, because children believed in him, because a promise made to a crying father still lived in his heart. By the time the 1966 World Cup arrived, Pelé was already a legend, but legends bleed too. The world expected magic. Pelé felt fear. The World Cup in England was supposed to be Pelé's stage. Instead, it became his nightmare. From the first match, defenders targeted him, not with tactics, with violence. They kicked his legs. They stamped on his ankles. They fouled him repeatedly. Referees did nothing. Pele was injured early in the tournament but forced himself to play. He could barely walk. Yet he was expected to win. Brazil was eliminated in the group stage. For the first time, Pele felt humiliated on the world stage. Pele returned home broken, physically, emotionally, mentally. He said, "I was hunted. Football allowed it." The sport he loved had turned against him. Fans blamed him. Media criticized him. Officials stayed silent. For the first time, Pelé said the unthinkable, "I will never play in a World Cup again." Pelé considered quitting international football. He focused on Santos FC, but even there, pain followed him. Injuries became constant. Recovery was slow. Joy disappeared. He asked himself, "Is this worth it?" The king was tired of the crown. Away from football, Pelé struggled with fame. He had relationships that failed. He felt misunderstood. He felt alone. People saw the smile, not the pain behind it. He once said, "The loneliest man in the world is the one everyone knows." Despite everything, Pelé remained brilliant at Santos. Goals kept coming. Trophies followed. In 1969, Pelé scored his 1,000th career goal. The world stopped. It was celebrated like a national holiday in Brazil. But inside, Pelé felt empty. Numbers could not heal wounds. As the 1970 World Cup approached, Brazil begged Pelé to return. Fans wrote letters. Children prayed. The nation needed its king. Pelé hesitated. He remembered 1966, the pain, the violence. But then he remembered his promise. And he said yes. Pelé arrived in Mexico not as a boy, but as a man shaped by suffering, older, wiser, calmer. This time he played not with fear, but with freedom. Brazil played beautiful football, and Pelé was its heart. Pelé scored. He assisted, he led. In the final against Italy, Pelé scored with a powerful header. Brazil won 4-1. When the final whistle blew, Pelé collapsed in tears. 3 World Cups, a record no player has ever matched. The promise was complete. After the unforgettable triumph of the 1970 World Cup, Pelé was no longer just a football player. He had become something greater, a symbol of joy, excellence, and unity. At only 29 years old, he had already achieved what most players could not dream of in a lifetime: 3 World Cup titles, hundreds of goals, global admiration. Yet instead of feeling complete, Pelé felt a quiet exhaustion deep inside his soul. The world celebrated him endlessly, but Pelé felt the weight of time pressing harder than ever. His body carried the scars of years of brutal tackles. His legs ached. His spirit longed for peace. Football had given him everything, but it had also taken much in return. Still, he continued. At Santos FC, Pelé remained dominant. Stadiums filled wherever Santos traveled. Matches were no longer just games. They were events. People came not only to watch football, but to witness Pelé. Kings, presidents, artists, and celebrities waited to meet him. He shook hands with world leaders and posed for photographs with Hollywood stars. But behind the camera flashes, Pelé remained the same humble boy from Tres Corações, aware that fame was temporary and legacy was permanent. In 1974, Pelé made a shocking announcement. He retired from Brazilian football. Fans were devastated. Many believed football would never be the same again. Brazil mourned as if losing a national treasure. Pelé believed this chapter of his life was over. He wanted to rest. He wanted to live normally. He wanted to rediscover who he was beyond the crown. But destiny had one final mission for the king. In the mid-1970s, football in the United States was struggling. It lacked identity, passion, and global attention. Then came an idea that would change everything. Pelé was invited to join the New York Cosmos. At first, he refused. America did not love football. The league was small. The challenge seemed unnecessary, but then Pelé saw something bigger than himself. He saw opportunity. In 1975, Pelé signed with the New York Cosmos, and with that single decision, football in America was reborn. His arrival sent shockwaves across the world. Stadiums that once stood empty were suddenly sold out. Fans who had never watched football before now knew the name Pele. Children started kicking balls in parks. Television networks broadcast matches. Sponsors invested. The game began to grow. Pelé did not just play football in America. He taught it. He trained younger players. He inspired coaches. He showed fans the beauty of the game. Every match became a celebration. Pelé played with joy, not pressure. He smiled freely again. The pain of the past slowly faded as he realized his purpose had evolved. He was no longer chasing trophies. He was planting seeds for the future. In 1977, Pelé played the final match of his career, one half for Santos, one half for the New York Cosmos, a perfect farewell. As he walked off the pitch, tears filled his eyes. The crowd stood in silence, then erupted in applause. Football itself seemed to bow in gratitude. Pelé had completed his journey. After retirement, Pelé embraced life beyond the pitch. He became an ambassador for football, peace, and education. He worked with international organizations, promoted social causes, and inspired generations far beyond sports. He spoke about unity, respect, and opportunity. He believed football could heal divisions and bring people together. Yet Pelé's life was not without regret. He admitted mistakes. He acknowledged personal failures. He spoke honestly about the cost of fame and the lessons learned too late. This honesty made him even more human, even more respected. As years passed, new stars emerged. Football evolved. Records were broken. Debates continued about who was the greatest. But Pelé's name never faded. It remained timeless. Why? Because Pelé was not just about numbers. He was about feeling. He played with imagination when the game was rigid. He smiled when others feared pressure. He united people when the world was divided. Pelé showed that greatness is not only measured by trophies, but by impact. When Pelé passed away, the world did not just lose a football legend. It lost a piece of history. Tributes poured in from every corner of the globe. Players, fans, presidents, and children all spoke the same truth. There will never be another Pelé. And they were right. When Pelé stepped away from the pitch for the final time, football did not move on. It paused. Some players retire, but others become eternal. Pelé was not remembered only for what he won, but for what he gave to the world. After retirement, his life entered a quieter, yet no less meaningful chapter. Without stadiums and cheers, he faced a new challenge. Living as a man, not merely a symbol, he became an ambassador for football across the globe. Wherever he traveled, people listened. Not because he demanded attention, but because his presence carried history. Pelé spoke about education, peace, equality, and opportunity. He believed football could do more than entertain. It could connect humanity. From Africa to Asia, from Europe to the Americas. Pelé was welcomed not as a celebrity, but as family. He represented Brazil's soul to the world. Legacy came with a cost. Fame followed him everywhere. Privacy disappeared. Mistakes were magnified. Expectations never stopped. He admitted that being Pelé sometimes Sometimes meant losing Edson, the boy who just wanted to play. This honesty made him more than a legend. It made him human. As years passed, Pelé focused on family and mentorship. He guided young players not only in football, but in character. He often said, "Talent opens the door, but humility keeps it open." To young athletes, Pelé was proof that greatness and kindness could exist together. Football changed. Tactics evolved. Athletes became faster, stronger, richer. Yet Pelé remains unmatched. Why? Because Pelé was not only a scorer, not only a champion, he was a creator, a leader, a symbol of joy. He played with imagination when football was rigid. He smiled when pressure crushed others. He inspired when the world needed hope. 3 World Cups, over 1,000 goals. But those numbers alone do not explain him. Pelé represented possibility.